All right, we've got 6:30. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda, public comments. Anything for agenda review?
Yes. I need to add 3 consent items, and I have, I think, 3 informational items for you.
Okay, anybody else? Great. Then we'll look at minutes. We've got minutes from 11:07 and 11:21. Does anybody have corrections? If not, we can make a motion for both of them.
Oh, so.
Is there a second to approve both? All right, so motion to approve the minutes of November 7th and November 21st. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, now we'll move right into our board reports then, and we've got Jake listed.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes, you're good.
Good evening, everybody. So, again, I do not have an incredible amount to talk about today, but as many of you know, Winter Carnival is our big celebration for the beginning of February vacation. It is the themes of it, which is one of the more important parts, has officially been decided. The theme this year is going to be monsters. The freshmen, I believe, are ghosts. The sophomores are vampires. The juniors are sirens, and the seniors are zombies. They seem to be very excited about that. So decorations have already begun planning, skits, lip syncs, everything has already begun planning. It's a very complicated process, and I'm very excited to see if we can get another positive turnout this year and have a very, very good experience for everybody involved. That's all I have today.
Great, thanks. Any questions for Jake? Okay, thanks for joining us. We got Josh.
Good evening, everyone. The new school district truck has had the decals put on, and that process is done. So thank you for the support. We hope to make it last forever, and the crew is for a while, and the crew is very excited to have it on board. So thank you again for that support. The contract cleaners from Citywide have started here at Pembroke Academy, and the first week and a half has gone very well, and we look forward to that relationship moving forward, specifically throughout the rest of this school year. And then lastly on my report this week, PA, Three Rivers, and Pembroke Hill School recently had their health inspections done by the local Pembroke Health Department. We do this biannually with them. And it's Dr. Greco from town, who's our health officer. All went well, as is the case most times. And I'd like to thank Doc Greco for his time and coming in and checking our schools out and seeing what's happening. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Any questions for Josh?
Thank you.
All right. Anything on SAU or exec?
Nothing until our next exec board is Thursday, December 13th, 5:30 at the SAU conference room.
All right. We will go with, I guess, Dr. Marsh first tonight.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Winter sports has begun, and we will be entering our 3-month or so basketball, spirit, and hockey seasons, as well as winter track. You'll see that in your packet there is an email from me to Patty with a confirmation about our graduation date. I didn't send that out to parents yet. I wanted to wait until this meeting, and I was anticipating sending it out tomorrow. However, there is a news story that the Fisher Cats have been sold, so I want to get confirmation that we're all set before I send it out. So more to come, but I'm feeling like we'll be fine. I just want to double check that. A couple of things coming up. We have our Toys for Tots volleyball game on the 12th. Toys for Tots is a fundraiser of sorts that's put on by Student Senate, and it's a toy drive for the holiday season, and they do an excellent job every year. And then we have our winter concert on December 14th. Also, just being that this is the end of the first quarter, I wanted to highlight our 3 students of the month for September, October, and November, and those were Reagan Ellsworth for September, Gavin Courier for October, and Peyton Merwin for November. Congratulations to them.
Yes.
I sure will.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Morris?
I have one question, that's a little, self-serving, I guess, is how is the graduation date picked? Is it just per the Fisher Cats? Because I know we've been like
Yeah.
Monday, Thursday, and we're on a Tuesday.
Right, so it is primarily predicated on their baseball schedule. And then they give us a couple of options, but the other thing that we try to take into consideration is having a rain date that is immediately following that, because people travel for this and everything else. And sometimes they'll say, well, we can give you this date, but the rain date's 2 weeks later. It's like a non-starter. So finding 2 dates that fit in their schedule that are available, really, that's what we're.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any others? All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We have Mr. McCarthy.
Good evening, everyone. Since we last met, October and early November were very busy. We have slowed up a little bit as expected because saying no school in November. And we hit day 60, so we're officially 1/3 of the way through the school year, and it's gone awfully fast. Like PA, winter sports are underway with boys and girls basketball. I have to say I'm immensely proud of both the boys and the girls for making the team, and for the students who didn't make it, how well they handled it. So it's definitely not always the news, when you have cut sports, but they really handled themselves well. Both teams look to be competitive and bring home another Southeast title this year. Our school counselor, Ms. Lucas, has organized a giving tree for families in need, and staff are contributing to that currently. Our SRO, Officer Weber, has been in the building over the past month to talk about leadership, goal setting, and good decision making with our students. This Thursday, December 7th, is an early release day, and we have parent-teacher conferences from 1 to 5. And lastly, we're holding the Scholastic Book Fair. It will be open to 5 on the parent conference night and closing on Friday. So it's going to going into the library, picking out some pretty cool books. Yeah, kind of list out for TRS.
Thanks. We'll stop by and get a little poster of a Lamborghini or something like that as well. Yeah. Any questions for TRS? All right, cruising right along. We'll go over to Hillsville.
Hello, everybody. So not a lot going on right now, although it is a busy time of year, obviously with holidays and everything. Trimester 1 just ended, so report cards are going out this week, which coincides with our parent conferences. So we have early release on Thursday, but then we also have parent conferences all day on Friday. I know that's something that has been a change, and we're thankful for that. I think people are excited to be able to spend more time and have those quality conversations now that we've gotten to, they've really gotten to know the kiddos. And then again in March. So we're very excited for that. We have our winter concert tomorrow. Got to see they were practicing today. So cuteness overload. I can't wait for tomorrow. I think we have the younger starts at 5:30 and our older ones start at 6:30. Just one fun thing, we have our first grade, they just, some of them finished up a unit on, they were exploring how books change lives. So they spent a lot of time digging into different books and how they change lives. And it's been a culminating unit since pretty much the beginning of the year. And then they decided they wanted to celebrate by selecting books and sending them to a family shelter. So the kids have been working to gather those, and then they wrote notes that they stuffed in the books to share out. So that was something that they were very proud of, and was able to kind of end this idea of books changing your lives in a positive way by changing someone's life. So that's it for high school.
All right, any questions? Okay, moving along, budget.
So last Thursday, we had our last budget meeting, that was, police, rec, and the welfare department. Not much, to report on any of that. We will be presenting the school district budget on December 17th? 14th, shoot. 2 weeks from Thursday.
Oh, 2 weeks.
Oh, no, 1 week, I'm sorry, 1 week from Thursday. The 14th. Yeah,
Sent an email quite a while ago that there was no way we would be able to have it ready for the 14th. I hope that didn't get missed because Amber's at Epsom that night and then we had her scheduled for the 21st. And I had let Mark know that quite some time ago.
okay.
So, do you want me to email tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Let me take a look and see if I have it, because I would have it maybe.
I'll have to go back and look too.
Yeah, and what I said to Mark was we have 3 towns unfortunately that are SB2 and their deadlines are way before yours. So they're, the other 3 towns have to be done before we can move on to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the dates, but I do remember.
Yeah. I'll email tomorrow.
Okay. So, scratch the 14th. So- Yeah, and next week, the NBC is the Department of Public Works. I think water, maybe water and sewer also.
Okay, and let's be looking.
Sorry, just looking at my calendar. So we met last week. And we went over sort of a tax impact sheet, like a range of a tax impact sheet of the project. Because we still don't have a finite number, so they kind of gave us this range, this range, this range, what it looks like at 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and then how it comes down. We also, Wendy can probably fill you in more, we went over talking points and things that we really wanted the community to know about the building and the project. And they're going to be helping us set that up on a website so that can be filtered out. And they're also going to be planning online, like question and answer sessions that we'll have a sign up for the community. They talked about mailings. And then we also talked about trying to understand the timing, warrant, hearing, public hearing, everything that needs to happen, what the deadlines are on that. And if anybody, Wendy, if you want to jump in.
So we spent a lot of time talking about the talking points. They came up with like a draft flyer that we're working on to turn around to pass out at the concert tomorrow with the information. We talked about kind of the 5 impacts of the project. So that would be something that is ready to turn around for tomorrow. Continue to do some work based on getting mailings out there, working on the website. So as soon as they funnel information, we have all that ready to go. We're working on information nights early in January. We're going to try to do them kind of back to back. So 1 week one, 1 week another. I did get some feedback from the community about doing an in-person one. PALS has jumped in to offer childcare and things like that. So working with kind of all those community outreach. So once everything's locked in and they've given us all the information, the architects are doing all of the like PR, kind of like the flyers, and we ask for very specific graphics, like please give us a timeline graphic, all the things we want. And then we have the website ready to build and just plug and play based on a sample one that we had looked at. So all those pieces are coming together and working on in the background right now. So shortly after winter break, that'll all be ready to go out. We had talked about kind of waiting because before the holidays is a lot to throw out at people. So it should be all set to push out early in January.
Gary, a question?
It's more of a statement. I've spent the last couple of weeks just thinking about what we're facing, what we're coming up against. And I know that the last meeting, I was really pushing, saying, let's go, let's go, let's go. I really, after a lot of thought, have changed my mind, and I don't expect everybody else to follow suit. I'm just kind of voicing my opinion on this. I don't think we have enough time. The more I read, the more I look at, the more people I talk to in towns who have gone forward with bonds. 3 months is not enough time for us. I really, in like I said, my opinion. And I also feel like we take it, we don't get the town vote, and then we proceed. And then in a year, when we're back at the same spot and we try to do it, and people are gonna say, well, okay, well, it didn't pass a year ago, what have you changed? And if we haven't made any drastic changes, then we're gonna probably be on a, kind of on the hamster wheel. And I kind of looking at it as, instead of trying to cram it in 3 months and pray and hope that we get a positive vote, maybe we take the 15 months and really refine this plan and move forward from there. That's all. Thank you.
There's,
Oh, one more thing, sorry.
yeah,
I do want to say, I thank everybody for everything that they're doing to get this going, and I don't want you to feel like I don't think you've worked your butts off to get this to where we're at. I mean, you guys have put a lot of work into this, and it's not for anything other than I just want to see this pass so much that I just want to give us as much time as possible.
Sorry, little froggy there. Thank you for saying that you are organizing the in-person. I think the online is a great option for a lot of people, but I think in-person is going to be important. Can you speak to whether there's any initiative to, like, between now and voting day, identify, all events happening in the community, all community events happening in the community, and then making a plan to have a presence there to educate about the plan? Question number one. I guess I'll word it as a question. Would you consider some pre-holiday initiatives? I understand it's a lot to put out there before the holidays, and so maybe there's some room for, like, doing something, before the holidays, maybe like some save the dates, maybe like just getting some information out there. To Carrie's point, if we have a compressed schedule already that might not be enough time, then using some of this kind of 3-week period to do something seems helpful.
Yeah, so tomorrow like I said, we have ready the first kind of like flyer piece that we're gonna get that out. It's much more, I'll get it to Patty, much more comprehensive, so that's a lot more information on it. We are working on the dates for January, so that will go out prior to the holidays. I think one of the other things we had talked about was looking at getting those mailers done like sooner rather than later, so we could put the dates for the information nights on them. So all of that is in the works. And then I apologize, the first question you asked.
And then identifying community events that are already happening. So, like, I gather the in-person event that you mentioned is like an event that is being created just for this. So what I'm talking about is events that are already happening and then piggybacking on them and like having 1 or 2 people show up.
Yeah, so I was able to get some people that are connected with the community and have started like giving me a list of resources, and they're willing to go and take flyers to businesses and things like that. So they're working on a list of all those types of things and community events and organizations and stuff as well. So that's been good to be able to kind of get that on board in the last week.
other comments, questions around the
I guess I only have one question that I wasn't able to answer last week at the meeting is, what is because they were still waiting for Harvey to come back with like a closer number. We can't go to have a public hearing with a range. We can't have a huge range on a warrant article or on our website. So what is the deadline? Do we know, or do you have more information about when we'll have a number? No?
I think I think they're looking at trying to have something closer to before break was the last part of the conversation that I got. Trying to push the fact that we needed that. I think they're trying before break. I don't know if they will, but that was the end of the conversation.
So,
Yeah, I know as far as the public hearing goes, I've shown some dates that can start anywhere from early January and run into February. But, what's concerning to me, we'd be having a public hearing early, I think, February 1st or 2nd for the budget, right? And then, if we run out too far, we'd have to have another public hearing about the bond at this, at the same time. And maybe you can combine the two at the beginning of February, so it's still in the realm of presenting that bond, having a public hearing, but, as it stands right now, I had emailed Wendy also that, I brought it up to the NBC about, taking it toward Hill School. And they want to hold off for now until there's more surety in like the pricing and if we're gonna go forward with the bond at this time, so.
So I'll say, I think I've had sort of the same exact realization that Carrie has had. And I've been very much on the fence for a few weeks. But after talking with Patty a little bit and looking more at some of the budget stuff that we'll talk about in a few minutes, budget next year was already looking a little scary. It's not getting better, and we might, it looks like we might have some challenges finishing out this year budget-wise. And so if we really have to go with a full-on like 10 or 11% increase for next year, I think it looks irresponsible to the town to also say, we're going to start adding $4 or $5 per thousand on the tax rate right now for this as well. So I was kind of like, well, if it's just a timing thing, we've got good people, we can kind of make this happen. But I'm thinking selfishly, I guess, about being the guy that stands up there at the March meeting and selling this thing in a year where we're already going to be asking for a larger increase than we've seen in I don't know how long. And then also fielding questions from people going, why did I just hear about this, a month ago? I don't think it's going to inspire the people that may be in the middle to vote in favor of the project. And so personally, I feel like we would be heading into March in a disadvantageous position. I feel like we'd be heading into a no vote and we'd be trying to scratch and claw our way to get out of that. And I just don't feel like that's, for me, the position that I want to go into this project in. So we can kind of circle back, I think, after we talk about some of the budget stuff, we get an idea of what we're looking at. But I think I'd like tonight to get either an informal or formal, poll or vote on if, like, final, we pushing this thing for March or are we pushing it for March 2025? Because we can't really be wishy-washy about it anymore. And I don't want Wendy telling people to send stuff out tomorrow if we decide that's not the thing that we're going to do. So I think we'll circle back to this one. Anything else before we move on to consent agenda? Okay, we've got a few things on there. I think they're in the drive. Yep.
We could start with Three Rivers Ecology School field trip if that works.
Sure. So again, the field trip requests come before us as sort of, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. This one in particular has been going on forever. So I guess if they're, I don't know if Bill has a spiel or if anybody wants to ask questions.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second? Hey, any discussion? I didn't think so. All right, all in favor of approving, moving forward on the TRS Ecology School field trip, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great.
Okay, next we have the DC trip at Pembroke Academy, and if you remember last year, Dan came to you with a proposal from staff that I think it was for the students that had missed their 8th grade trip during COVID, and thought this was a great opportunity. So the final planning documents have been put in the drive for you.
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any questions about this? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I don't want to editorialize a little bit on that one, on all of these. And I've been waiting to say this until after they wouldn't necessarily benefit my own children. But I do feel like after seeing my kids go through these, both of the DC trip in 8th grade and the ecology school field trip, that they are part of the curriculum. And I know John tried for years to get those to be part of the budget, and we made a little bit of progress. But I think that's something that we should continue to try to do, because I think having to have families worry about whether or not their kid can go to the nation's capital or, to a really worthwhile science school, we should try to get away from that if we can, Down.
And I've echoed that agreement with that, and I'll echo it again. I think it's just not debatable. This is part of education, and it's part of the excellence in education that our school district provides. And parents shouldn't have to be paying out of pocket for this. Parents already pay out of pocket, we just mentioned the tax rate. That's what that funds.
Just a quick question. Are the 8th graders also going to be there that same week from TRS? Yes, okay, I thought so. Yes. I'm not worried about that. It's just funny because Olivia is actually attending this and she's so excited because she missed it in her 8th grade year. And she's like, well, we're not gonna see the TRS kids, are we? I'm like, no, you're gonna be on total opposite ends, but I thought so, but I wanted to just confirm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine. So we also had a child rearing request come in, and if you have any questions, we would need to postpone that until after non-public.
I'll make a motion. Go ahead, Jean.
No, you got it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right. Now for number 7. Reconsider.
Oh, I haven't said that, usually free for informational.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I've noticed, sorry.
All right, so that takes us to number 8, which is the most fun always. So 8A is the budget for next year. So I don't know if you want to talk about.
Please,
Sure. I'd love to.
I'd love to talk, not about this, but. So after the last meeting, the administration gets the number within a day of you getting it, because it takes a lot of work for Amber to put all the finishing touches. So we didn't know what it was going to look like until you saw what it looked like. So we sort of regrouped and went back and spent several hours going through the budget and trying to find places that we could make cuts, and then what would be the result of those cuts. We had initially prepared documents for you tonight, and we met again this morning after some new developments and felt like we weren't prepared to give you what we had worked on, and I'm going to explain what I'm talking about with that. So we had gone through and cut a bunch of stuff and said, okay, we still have some ESSER money left. It has to be spent by September 30th. So let's try to pull some things out that we were going to put in for that ESSER could cover. We put a few things that we could cover with the Instructional Materials Trust. We made a few straight out cuts that not a whole lot, but we did our best, and we talked about removing the 2 positions that we had put in that were funded from the grant. After doing that work, we've had last week, yesterday, and today, notification of increased special ed costs. So last week I thought, okay, get it in the budget. It is what it is, put the PO in. And then yesterday I found out about something else. And then today someone came to me, and I know it's hard because I can't tell you specifically what happened and what those changes are, but they were completely unknown to us. So your budget now, before the changes that I found out about today and yesterday, is a deficit of $430,000. So this year, right now. So it's, I was saying for the past couple of months, it's early, but it's not getting any better. And I don't know if there will be any money freed up. Sometimes at the end of the year, when we start reconciling, there's health insurance, excess or different places, but we won't know that for a while. So we felt like it was irresponsible to make cuts in next year's budget, plan to use all our grant funds when we're not even sure what we're going to do for the rest of this year. And Jess Bickford had mentioned that she was able to secure some ESSER funds to offset special ed transportation last year for another district. So that may be a lifeline for us. And I don't think it would be responsible to cut from the budget and say we're going to use ESSER and then to find out we can't use ESSER. So that's why we didn't bring anything to present to you tonight. I did look at your trust funds to sort of I couldn't remember exactly what the balances were. So when we're talking about $430,000 right now, we have $378 in special ed. We have 93 in the instructional materials. And after we do our public hearing for the tech trust, we'll have approximately $35,000 there. So, right now, I think we could squeak by and potentially have to pull in ESSER. We're monitoring this every other week. Amber gives us a printout. We go through. Administration spent several hours going through line by line by line, and we looked at what we had spent. For example, somebody had $500 in social studies supplies. We've spent $378. We shut the line down. Like what you've spent is it, not any line that we could. We left general supplies open. Clearly, we need to get paper and general supplies for the rest of the year. We left some of the co-curricular stuff open so that we could continue to run sports and pay officials and such. But anything at all that we could, have some discretion over, we freed up that money, and that's already in the $430,000. So that's with money freed up that we had intended to spend this year. So I am, needless to say, extremely nervous about this. I don't know what this means for next year's budget. I don't know if Jess is going to come back and say we need to add more money into the budget for special ed. It really depends on the three scenarios that were presented to me over the past couple of weeks on whether we're going to need to add money. So what I can tell you is that the two new positions, I had asked Amber, it's probably around $200,000. So I just wanted to have that number for you. And when I had talked to Andy, because our plans got a little bit derailed in the past couple of days, was to just have you consider what you want the plan to be moving forward and what cuts you may or may not be looking for us to make. And then we'll go back and do whatever we need to do. But we definitely need a sense from the board of what direction you want to go.
Somebody should have been.
I'll jump in. So I understand that we need to make rational decisions that consider the impact to taxpayers. And I'm not advocating that we don't make cuts, and I'm not advocating one position or another with respect to the timing of the Hill School warrant article. But I just do want to spend a little bit of time advocating in favor of students, because nobody has really talked about that too much with respect to all of these financial considerations. In my opinion, we really need to make sure we are considering the education that the school district provides a lot, at the forefront when we're considering these financial issues. And when we're talking about cutting things that we put in the budget, that means that we're talking about not providing the education that we thought was needed. And it's been, 5 years since we decided as a school district that we know it's not good to have classes in closets and to have students in closets and to have teachers operating in closets at the Pembroke Hill School. We're going to do it temporarily, but we're going to, as fast as we can, get that school renovated so that it is appropriate. And we're considering making decisions that are going to delay that after it's already been delayed through no fault of our own because of the pandemic. So I just want to put a little shout out to make sure that we are considering the needs of our students and the educational value that our district can put forward while balancing these really, really tricky, complicated financial issues that are, before us.
Someone else. Or me?
No.
Okay, I'll go next. So the first thing that I want to say is I definitely don't want to see any math tutors that is for everybody, inclusive, be cut off the budget because of unexpected special education costs. That's not okay. We have to have a balance. The other thing, and I hope this doesn't come across wrong, I really think as a district that we need to look into having an inclusion specialist come to our district. Because there is a problem if our special education costs are increasing millions of dollars, and now we're talking about cutting normal curriculum out of our budget, and we may not be able to vote a bond for an elementary school because the taxpayers can't pay for special ed. Something's happening that we need to figure out what the root cause is. And that's all I'm going to say for now.
Let's quickly respond to one point of that before I say my whole thing, but I don't know that much about special ed, and I'm just gonna assume that the words that you used were correct, an inclusion specialist, but I do think, with the little I know about it, I would love to see some sort of analysis on, like, how many kids we send out of district compared to what is, like, normal for a school of our size, because I do think that represents an enormous cost. And if that's what's in the best interest of those individual children all the time, great. But if we can put some programs in place here to take care of that instead, I think that's an easy sell, to the community. It's probably ultimately going to cost less in the long run. It just seems like the right thing to do. I don't know how we get that analysis done, but
I don't either. I don't know how you go about doing it. Go ahead.
So we were, years and years ago, one of the first districts that actually hired an inclusion facilitator. We had one for years, and then we did such a great job of getting all of our kids back. That position sort of just, the person retired and we didn't fill that position. I've had this conversation with Jess, and Jess has come to, Jess Bickford is our, for people who don't know, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. She has come to a leadership team. We've had these conversations about looking at the profile of our students. I would love for her to spend some time in non-public, because as a school board, you're entitled to more information than we can speak about in public. And that may also help you to get a better understanding of our numbers and students that we have out and where they are and all of that. But she is very interested in looking at this as an SAU-wide initiative and seeing if there are commonalities throughout our SAU. We have the bridge program. The bridge program was for middle school. And as you know, we transitioned that because the need was at the elementary level. So we now have that at the elementary level. But I can't get into specifics, but I don't disagree that we need to do something, and we need to look at the profiles of our students who are placed out and see if there's something we can do in-house, especially with transportation. And Jess said with the cost of a placement and to get a student there, you could probably hire several staff members. So it's about space and seeing if there are commonalities and that you can, have students together, what their issues they're given. So we are working on it.
Thank you guys for that stuff.
I'm good with what Melanie said.
Yeah,
Answered my question, actually.
And actually, I'm kind of like echoing what you're saying and what Andy is saying here. Also, I don't want to see the regular education program suffer because of the increase on the special ed side. I think what needs to be done, it would take time to get an inclusion specialist in here to evaluate it. But I guess what I'm asking is the building administrators to look at the special ed programs in your buildings, along with Jess, and find where there's space where we can save money. Is there certified staff not working hourly with students? Is there extraneous personnel that are wandering around? I'm sure that's not the case, but it's like I can't wrap my head around this. Between transportation and special ed, it's we have our normal maybe $1 million increase. But here we are at 3.5 plus, and that taking that to meeting in March, when people see that number, when they see that tax impact sheet coming out, where the schools alone are looking at, 10, 11%, which Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, is probably 5 or 6 on the tax rate.
3 or 5.
Yeah,
Okay, so, and that's just for the schools, not inclusive of what the town's gonna add to it.
I think we just saw I think the county number is up.
And the county
Not that
number,
the county number
not-
is a
not
lot
very
piece,
much.
but it's up too.
So that's what I'm just kind of asking you all to do, to just evaluate. I know you're all busy doing your things, and this is something extra to really take times, take a look, bring it to Patty, bring it to Jess. This is where I can see improvements or something like, where we could improve and possibly save money. I'm not talking about ends up going that way, but if it comes down to eliminating a position and maybe consolidating responsibilities, I think that's where we have to go at this point. Because it's going to be a hard sell if we stay at this number going into March meeting, let alone if there, if, and we'll go back to the building too. If this budget stays the way it is, it's definitely not going to fly. The school's not going to fly. So that's where I am on it. And again, we have to provide these services, and unfortunately, we're on the hook for something that we should provide, but we don't get any help from anywhere else. That whole pooled resource of the state or even the federal government, reduces costs to everyone when we pool our resources, but that's not the way it works. Each individual community here is getting hammered with this, so.
I was just gonna ask for some more detail on, at least Melanie, what you contemplated on having an inclusion specialist. So for example, is that, a consultant that comes in and kind of does a one-off audit and then makes some recommendations? Or is that more along the lines, did you have in mind of what Patty said, which sounded like an on-staff, employee? Could you just provide a little bit more detail on what you had in mind? And then is that something that we should be thinking about putting into the budget that we're making right now for this coming year?
It's been done both ways before, just like Patty said. It can be a consultant who comes out and just looks at the environment, looks at the needs of the kids that they're dealing with, makes recommendations, things to do to keep the child in the building. But it can also be a staff member who's well-versed in special education, which it sounds like what we used to have, that does the same kind of things. Okay, these accommodations are needed in math. This is needed at lunchtime. This is needed here, to try to have that child in their least restrictive environment in the classroom with their peers and not being sent somewhere else. So that they're included in inclusion, specialists included in their community, in their building. The only question I was also going to ask about ESSER funds, where the pandemic did create a lot of behavioral and social emotional deficits, can some of those funds be used for special education resources or paraeducators or anything like that? If you can prove that point?
The ESSER grant expires September 30th, so we can't do anything for next year with this grant. It's going to be finishing, and we have probably some needs to save our budget with those funds. And the reason that I brought Jess up is she's new to our SAU, so she came in from another district, and she's really interested and had spent last year, which was her sort of transition year, spending a lot of time in the buildings and getting to know our programs. And that's why she brought it up to administration, that she really does she is really intently looking into this and figuring out if there are programs that we can put in place, or if we have students that need to start transitioning back. So I think if we just give her a little bit of time and let her take a stab at it first, and see what her recommendations are and what her findings are.
That sounds,
That's okay.
that sounds reasonable. I was just thinking, like, you had said we had somebody, they did a really good job, there wasn't a whole lot of work left, they retired, we didn't fill that position. So if it did come down to we hired somebody, say for Pembroke School District, and that happened again, then we might think about transitioning that to be an SAU position. So
It
that's-
wasn't.
Okay, so yeah, because that makes sense, that we're not the only ones that need it. We have other districts that are, getting those same transportation costs and everything like that.
I'm just gonna push back a little bit on the reasonableness of this plan, because I hear you saying she's working on that, but at the same time, I'm gonna forget the numbers exactly, but I hear before tonight, we were looking at increases in special education because of outside of district placements in the magnitude of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now tonight, we're adding onto that increases in the budget because of out of district placements in an additional magnitude of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm not sure that it is a reasonable plan to wait for her to keep working on it. You know what I mean? I don't know that we have the luxury of spending those hundreds of thousands of dollars to wait if there are things we could do sooner.
I'm not,
I'm not sure there's somebody readily available to start this work, but it would take much longer to hire someone to come in and learn about our districts and our programs and all of our students than it would for an existing staff member. That's why I had suggested that, because she's already getting to know our students and our buildings and our programs. And they are legal, IEPs are legal documents with placements already having decisions in them. So the likelihood, you would literally have to have meetings for all of these students and get agreements from families to bring them back immediately, which is it's not gonna happen quickly, but I'm not suggesting that we don't move forward. And I think she is working on it actively.
The scenario that I'm nervous about is the very heavy workload that you just described is too much for her position. And we don't learn that, and we haven't planned for a new position. And so therefore, we're looking at the fall of 2025 until we can bring someone in, because we didn't budget for it now. That's my concern.
Patty, you had mentioned, the IEPs, and you'd have to re-interview everyone and basically get the parents to agree to bring them back. So here's my question. Do we have students out of district that we could provide services for, but the parents didn't agree to keep their children here?
I can't really
I know you
answer
can't
those.
answer that, I think, public, but I wanted, if that's the case, then I think we've got to, it kind of goes, I'll bring this up. Is it the squeaky wheel and just, okay, fine. Well, you go where you want to go then, even though we can do this, kind of like Epsom's kids going to Prospect Mountain.
So when I refer to parents agreeing, that's because it's a team decision that the parents have to be on board with what the team proposes. So it would just mean a meeting and us having something in place for their student to be able to come back, and then they would need to agree to the plan before we could move forward.
Right.
So that's more what I was referring to.
Yeah, and I guess, so just going with what I said, if that was the case that, we had a squeaky wheel and the parents didn't like what was going on here, even though we could provide the service.
It probably makes more sense for us to have a little bit of conversation in non-public.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could get
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
the same thing.
tonight, yeah.
Sure. Okay, I've got thoughts, but I don't want to derail the current conversation. So I'm gonna ask for two things, and unfortunately, they're gonna be work for Amber, so tell her I'm sorry. One thing that I would like to see, and I don't know if this is gonna be easy to pull out with the new system and everything, but I would love to see, and I think I have an idea anyway, but I would love to see, like, as close of a breakdown as we can reasonably get of completely untouchable, and then changes that we could make but would involve cutting staff or positions. And then else, right? Things that are like fully under our control that don't involve people. Does that make sense?
Amber's not going to be able to put this together, so I think if you can explain it to us, we could sit as a team and work on this.
Okay.
So the things that are untouchable that we can't do anything about.
Like, so transportation
Things
would be that.
Yep,
Special ed would be that
Yep.
in most
Yep, yep.
cases,
and then things that we could change but would require cutting staff,
right?
okay?
Or people, well,
Yep.
everything, custodians and secretaries and like every person,
Yeah, and then there was a third category.
everything else. Like,
Oh.
what is like just stuff that we pay for because we want to pay for, like, not that we pay for, but like textbooks. Like, we
Yeah.
could take textbooks out, it's not firing somebody, and it's not a legal responsibility.
Okay.
It doesn't, it doesn't have to be down to the penny or anything, but if we could get a rough idea of like percentages of that, of the 32 million or whatever it is, because I think that last, that everything else number is only about 600K of that entire budget. But if I could get official, something to back that assumption up, that'd be cool. The other thing that I'm gonna ask for, and I don't want anybody to start throwing stuff at me, because I'm not making any push here. I'm just asking for information. I would like to see how much the district spends in a year on sports. I know, but I have to ask, like, I mean, I know, and if anybody's watching, you can send me hate mail, and like I said, I'm not saying that I'm going to pursue this, but I need to know the information when we're talking about not hiring math or not keeping math coaches on that our administration told us they should have. But we're also gonna pay for what, at the end of the day, we're an educational institution. I'll leave it at that. If I can get a rough number, I don't need dollars and cents, but if I get a rough idea of coaches' salaries, equipment for sports, how much of Josh's budget is, spent on maintaining soccer fields, athletic directors and all that stuff, like, I don't know, I don't have any good concept of what that pot of money looks like. And I know there's value to that too, I'll say that right out front in case anybody's getting mad at home. Like, I understand there are some kids that come to school only because they can go to sports afterwards. So again, I'm not taking this anywhere, I just need that information.
The one thing I will add to that too, also, the pot of money, but also the participation in each individual sport. And the dollar amounts attached to that. The lower attended or the lower, whatever, used sports that we have, obviously aren't going to be costing as much as, let's say football or basketball or whatever. But if there's a low amount of students, less impactful, I think we should be looking at.
And I mean, I guess my head is sort of where Amy was at too. It's hard to look and say, okay, we have these educational needs, like Melanie said, that would impact potentially a very broad range of students. And we have to look at the places where we're spending money on possibly a smaller amount of students. So again, just looking for information. Okay, anything else on that? I think maybe.
I do have one
Yeah.
question, because it came up at the budget committee. Do we have any idea how much time the SRO spends in the schools?
We budget for him to be there all the time, but we are only billed for when he's there, so I'm sure we could pull the invoices to see how many days we've
Yeah. It was
paid
just,
for.
yeah, there was just an estimate thrown around, so I just want to see how it goes, we are to that.
Yeah, we can pull. I think we pay them at the SAU, don't we? Yeah, I can get those pulled.
Sorry?
I was saying, I think we pay those at the SAU when they come, so I think I can just get them pulled and tell you how many days.
Awesome. Thank you.
You mean just for this year so far, or?
Last year to this,
Yeah.
comparison maybe,
Okay.
maybe last 2 or 3, it's not too much of a hassle.
I wonder if they phoned him, because every time I'm in any school I see him there, I don't know how he does it. Not to belabor this, but before we go on to warrant articles, can we circle up on thoughts on the building project? in the light of the other conversations that we just had about the budget? Anybody's thoughts and feelings changed?
Yes.
I have one more question for Patty, and it's kind of a doozy, but please get out your crystal ball. Do you have any sense of what the next budget is going to look like? Because if you have a sense now,
Next year, you mean?
yeah, that, in December of 2024, we're going to be sitting here having a conversation that could sound anything like, oh no, the budget is horrible this year. There's no way we can pass a bond. That would be really informative for this conversation.
If you asked me a year ago if the budget, I would never in a million years have come up with a $3.5 million increase. This is never in my tenure has there ever been an increase like this. And I would love to tell you this will never happen again, but I don't know. I don't know what's happening. And it's every district, or all of our districts in our SAU are up between 10 and 12%. And if you go to a superintendent's meeting, everyone's talking about the same thing. It's our poor kiddos, are in dire straits right now. And the services and transportation to get them where they need to be is outrageous.
So
I don't know.
to follow your thought, Amy, and give a little more insight as to where my head is at least tonight, it could change tomorrow morning, is I fully expect that we are in a new era and that these types of increases are going to be typical. But I think for me, what that means is that to spend a lot of money, like on a building, we have to be as on point strategically as we can possibly be. And that's what's tipping me towards waiting till next year is I think we could, in a normal year, when we're telling everybody the budget's gonna go up 700K or, 1.5% or something, I feel like we could shoehorn this in. We could get the messaging out there. And I think generally, Pembroke is a sports committee when it comes to our budget anyway. I think, year after year we pass it. Sometimes it's close, but knock on wood, we've passed it. But I feel like in this new era of, possible double-digit increases percentage-wise, trying to do it haphazardly won't get the job. And so I guess to wrap up my concern, I think waiting a year will make it happen faster, if that makes any sense.
I agree. What Andy said, I went into the first budget committee meeting this year, we were talking and everything like that. And my first response, and I said it to Mark, the chairman, that this is becoming unsustainable. And, 10 or 11% when we were running, maybe maxing out at 10% max on some years, but budget was smaller, so that was a smaller number.
Or we'd say 10% and come back
And
with
come
$1
back
million
with five.
surplus
Yeah.
later. And
Well, that was
really
all
be
because, yeah.
3.
There was a lot of artificial stuff that went on in the past, 2 or 3 years. Also, the ESSER funds especially, that's free money we can use to run the schools, and then, we kind of like, you can equate it to the, I'm not gonna go down this road. As far as the building goes, I think waiting might, like Andy said, might get it done quicker. Especially if we can also show that, we had, I believe 83 additional children just in Pembroke School District this year. If we see another similar or high increase in population again next year, that kind of puts the nail in it that, we have to do this at this point in time, or else we're gonna have portable classrooms at Three Rivers also. And, that's probably coming, if this comes up the hill, or down the hill.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? I'm sorry, you just spurred something that I meant to say earlier too. I also think that the point that Dr. Morris brought up about a month ago now is important too. And if we've decided a new building is the way to go, I think the other thing that the year buys us is I think it is worthwhile to do the due diligence about putting that building down here. Improving traffic patterns, consolidating everything into one area. It makes services easier to share. And I think if we decide that we're pushing this next year, I would really love to see that investigated. And I don't know if that's gonna piss off the two firms that are working on it, but I think that is a worthwhile pursuit if we've got the time to do it. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. No, that's perfect too, yeah. And I did mention that when they were questioning me on it at budget. They're going where up there? It's all swamp. But up on the top of the hill, I did actually walk it last week, and to the eye, it looks like there's a large area that you could do it. But Dr. Morris's idea, got what, an acre or something like that over there?
What's our lot? We have 90 acres.
98. Some of it's unusable, right?
We'd have to have them tell us.
Yeah, so, and, you know, the consolidation of that also. But, yeah, I think it has to be.
Amy also texted me something today, and I don't want to steal your thunder. So I had kind of thought of this, if you remember, a strip of land came available on Belanger Drive a while back, and I was half tongue in cheek saying we should buy that and put our own bus garage there so that we can get rid of Dale. But, you know, if we did put a school down here and we still owned that piece of property, I think that would be actually a really good consideration. Amy texted me about it today, but if we got a spot up there that we could build a depot and all that, I mean, it would be a sell, but I think over the course of 20 years, you're gonna save the taxpayers money. And then every year after that. So I was concerned last time and I asked Josh, like, what do we do with that building that's just sitting there? But if there's not a new building there and we've got a plot of land that we could house, 10 buses and a big ass garage on, sorry. That's right. So I mean, that's a valuable thing. I think could be a major part of that consideration. I also wanted to ask, Wendy, since you've been, chatting with the citizen committee and all these volunteers that you've gotten together, like, what is the feeling if we say tonight to you, we're doing this not this March, but the following March? Is everybody going to be like, what the heck are we doing? Or are people going to be like, oh, good, we can do this right now? Like, do you have a sense of, or even you personally as the principal of Hill School? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't have a sense either, like I haven't had that many conversations to get the feel for that. Obviously it's something that we are looking, forward to, but understand where you guys are at with it. We'll pretty much support or do whatever it is that you guys want, as far as that.
Thanks. That was political. Others?
What happens to all our guys? What happens to all the work and all our guys? Like, does that stay?
Yeah, no,
None of the work is wasted, and we can start some things over. They'll give, if we need to extend our services of our architect because they need to do more, they'll give us a new update on what they expect that funding to be. And we still have money left in the trust fund for the rental project that we could, if they needed to do new plans or we needed to have updated quotes. I'm not sure how long they guarantee those quotes when they do come up with the number, but once all the legwork is done, it wouldn't be anywhere near as much to have them just update things.
I guess my only comment is it's definitely not going to be cheaper next year. The cost will go up. It's a lot of work. I'm heartbroken. I don't really have an opinion and would continue to work hard and stay on the committee and continue to go to all the meetings. But then on the other hand, I can see Andy standing up there in March trying to defend a budget that he has absolutely no control over. And the only thing that there's going to be control over is this building. And I feel like the town people are probably going to be like, well, we can definitely say no to that. And they're stuck with whatever our increase is. That's all I have for opinion.
I was just gonna say, I can get behind not putting the new Pembroke Hill School on the warrant in 2024, but only if we really kind of don't stop pushing forward with the Pembroke Hill School. You know, this doesn't mean, in my mind, there aren't mailers now, and there aren't public information meetings now. In my mind, it means that the pace that we were setting forth to starts. Because I think that's what we were envisioning was going to be happening for several months now. It's just that the design wasn't there. You know, it's hard to talk about and get people excited about like words, you know? So that's sort of where I'm at with the thinking, and even possibly to the extent that, you know, at the annual meeting, there is, you know, Andy talking for a minute or two or three, or, you know, I defer to you, Andy, but something about like, stay tuned for next year's bond vote.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I wouldn't want to see things slow down. I think that we can use that time really wisely, though, and I think that we can message and you know, even we might have time to get the community more involved as far as decision making. Like, hey, what do you all think about having it up there versus having it down here? If we ask that question in the next month or two, like that should be enough time. We don't have to tell, like they can start looking and see if we have a reasonable site down here to do it. But then we can make the decision of where we're going to do it after we've heard some feedback from a survey or something. And you know, I'm all about giving the town what the town thinks is best. If we propose that, we need to tell them that we're going to fix the traffic pattern too, because that's going to be the thing everybody hates. But yeah, I mean, I think that's potentially one of the benefits of lengthening out too, is not only can we get the flyers out sooner, but we can also solicit feedback on things and, you know, and possibly get more help, right? If we've got more time, we got more time to say, hey, anybody that just heard about this and is really excited, come and join us too.
So I'm kind of going to piggyback on what Amy was saying, but, you know, with continuing the push, why not still hand out stuff tomorrow night at the concert? Let's just keep going, but just knowing that we've given ourselves a little extra time, but just still get the information out there. And at annual meeting, we can have a table set up with, here's what we're thinking for next year. Just, you know, and if you'd like to join on, obviously, you know, the budget is going to be enough of a, you know, shock factor in itself. But if people, I feel like the more information we get, the better we're going to be. Just keep trucking along.
We can also plan on having something at the deliberative session at the beginning of February, hearing. Again, concert, hearing.
Well, it gives us a whole other cycle too.
Yeah, and then
Well, home days and Christmas in the village and
more people will be talking longer. If somebody didn't hear about it, you know, town meeting, they pick something up, or at a concert, they pick something up, they mention it. You know, it gets out there more. But granted, you know, so a lot of that will stay in the community that has children in the schools. But, you know, again, at district meeting, there's, you know, you get a better mix. So, and just shooting back to the budget real quick. Can you ask Amber to send the Excel conversion thing that she has for the budget tomorrow, so they can have that? I told them, try making no promises, you know, at the end of this week or whatever, thinking that next Thursday was our meeting.
all right, so that we can move on, and in honor of Peter Warburton, who was often quoted as saying, when in doubt, take a vote. I'm going to ask for a motion to intend to put the bond vote for the Hill School on the warrant in March of 2025. So affirmative is delaying it a year. So somebody willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to intend to put the Hill School, what are we calling it? Hill School project on the March 2025.
Is there a second?
Warren goes.
There we go.
Sandy's a wizard.
Sandy, make that look pretty.
Thank you.
Sorry, did you second? Second, miss. All right. Is there any further discussion? All right, then all in favor of putting the bond vote for the Hill School project on the 2025 warrant, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. Good. I feel good about that. I have trepidation. We've been working on this so long. But I think this is the, I don't know. I feel like this is the right move. Okay. So warrant articles. I've only lived here minutes. I've lived here now.
Well, it was re-up the month, so. Stacy's needs to be, I don't want to be before that. Copy of the trust. We're only about the same. You don't want to. So.
So last time when we put these in, I think I mentioned to you that the only thing that's been populated are the funds that Josh has brought forward that are contributing to his capital improvement plan or his regular replacement cycles that he's in. And then I also had made notes, if in case anyone had questions, you had had a board discussion about the targets that you were shooting for. Too, so I can remind you of that if you want. I didn't write anything on your copies, but you had talked about shooting for 500,000 to the special ed trust fund at 20K each year. You had talked about keeping around $50,000 in the instructional material trust fund. You had talked about shooting for 100,000 for the tech fund. And you had suggested moving the vehicle fund up to 75,000, given the increased cost of vehicles, but I think Josh already suggested
10,000.
10. He suggested 10, so that would bring it to 71. So that would get very close to where you were thinking it should be. And they are not in any particular order. And we don't have the the PSSA numbers in yet for the paraprofessional. We have our next meeting, when is our next meeting? Next week? Hopefully to wrap that up.
You don't have any comments.
13th.
I was gonna say, is
Of
that
what?
the warrant on the drive? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think probably just announce tonight, right? I mean, we could,
That's up to you.
but we've got a little bit.
I just want to remind you that if you're intending to fund any of these from surplus, you know, last year we managed to pull it off at the end. We had enough re-up that we were able to do it, but just keep that in mind that ordering of them will become probably more important this year.
Given what the budget looks like it probably will be, I think we have to pick the most important, I mean, is the building capital reserve.
Gene, do you want my paper, because I have it on the screen.
If anybody has anything, go right ahead. I'm just having my head down here, so.
And then I think just as a reminder, the other 200 in the site improvement was the track, right?
Right.
So am I reading this right, that currently it's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 that would be funded only if there was a surplus, and as they're written, they'd be funded in that order?
Right.
So everything other than those is not going to be affected by the possible fact that there won't be any surplus?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Is it also then true that we don't really have to worry about the order of anything other than these?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 through 10, you got it.
I've always, the school building capital reserve is like, I think, very important. But like most important at this point in time. I know the others, but we could blow right through that with one minor disaster. So,
Can you remind me how it works, Patty? Like, let's say, for example, if we do leave number 6 as the first surplus funded warrant article, and let's say, for example, the surplus turns out to be $140,000. How does it work again as to whether number 6 would be funded or not?
It can be funded up to that amount.
Okay.
I think number 8. Sorry, Josh, but I think that we should push that all the way down.
Yeah, that's where my head was at too. I think the numbers on all these, to me, seem reasonable. There's obviously nothing exorbitant here. And I think, I agree with Gene, I think that the school building capital reserve is the most important, and sadly, I think the track is least important of these. I don't want to get in a situation where we're not funding that technology one. We're seeing how important the special ed trust is right now. And vehicles are gonna be also.
Can we ask for, or can I ask someone for clarification on the track? That's what the $200,000 is for, right? So, have we spent any money to replace the track? Has any construction happened to replace the track?
No. So that's just planning out that we know we're at the end of the track's life. We can see the failure and there's no more, for lack of a better word, ship and overlay. There's no more just taking the top layer off, putting a fresh layer on. It needs to start from the bottom up.
And there's money earmarked this year from surplus, which you're probably not gonna get, correct? Current year, is that right? Or did we take that out last year?
We got that last year. We got last year's half. This
Right.
next half would be this year, which is what you're talking about right now.
Yes.
We
What-
got last year's? or-
Yes. Your warrant articles were funded
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking that was current year.
it was from surplus
Okay, okay,
available in July.
gotcha.
And so even if we got this year, just to say it out there, it doesn't mean we do it this summer. Because of the values in those trust funds, it still means we would be doing it the summer after. So we'd be pushing it down a year, which is what it is.
And can I just remind you that the special education trust and the instructional materials is not on here, and that's just because we used an old version to copy and paste, so if you wanted to add those in, we would need to do that.
I think, I was going to ask that question, I was looking for the special ed, and I think, number 7. And what we were talking about for number for that? On a yearly basis?
Target was 100, we were at 62. For technology, right?
No, I was talking about special ed. We're at 378,
Yeah, and you were told to get to 5.
and
we're probably gonna dip into that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, I'm looking. Be nice to know how much we're gonna dip into it. Because that would probably reflect what I would suggest. To need another 100. So, I mean, at this point in time, on a 5-year run, not using it or using it as we've used it in the past, I was gonna say 50 grand for a year, but if we're gonna hammer that, this year we might be looking, let's throw in 100 and make that number 7.
I agree with the amount, Jane. I almost feel like it should be number 6, because I feel like when we're talking about the school building, we also have insurance products that come into play when we have a catastrophic loss.
Yep.
There's no insurance product that helps coverage when we have additional special education expenses. So for that reason, I would recommend putting that first and school building second.
I'm on board with that.
I'm also on board with putting the track last. I think other than that, I wouldn't suggest any changes, but I'm open, obviously, to others' thoughts.
I might even suggest that we leave the track off because of the budget.
Yeah, I remember there was some discussion at the annual meeting.
Can I ask a question about the track? So are there rules? NHIA have certifications of the track, like when I ran a track when I was a kid, it was like dirt, rocks and stuff. Are we in danger of not being able to have a track team because of the condition of the track? Or are we like, this thing sucks and it's gonna fail pretty soon, so we should take care of it?
We're trying to get way ahead of it. I'm not saying that we're in danger, but what could happen is we could be in danger of losing a lane or 2, which has happened to us in the past prior to my time. So what happens is you close those 2 lanes down and then
Where
we have issues there. And then just to reiterate, what we see happening in the tracking areas is the start of the indentations happening. So personally, my fear of the indentation, so there are cracks that happen, we fill them, the company fill them, but where we get into the indentations, that's where we can't shim and overlay it to correct that at this point in time, because the track is past that useful life and you only get so many shim and overlays. And what's gonna happen if those indentations get too big is you go to step and the landing's not gonna be there. And that, personally, that's my fear. I see those indentations happening. I've brought in the companies in who see them, and we're trying to get ahead of that.
But we have some tracks. So,
Special ed.
100. That's okay with that, I would just.
It's a crapshoot at this point, but I think that's.
I think it's prudent.
Yes, I think, so far, nobody's suggested anything else, yeah. Yeah, so I think I think currently what we're saying is 6, article number 6 would be 100K to special ed. Article number-
No. Special ed is,
Yep.
Yep.
Article, yep, and that would be Article 7. Article 8 would be technology
For 10.
for 10. Article 9 would be equipment installation and labor at 25. Is that right?
Vehicle.
Did I skip?
Discussion vehicle.
Okay, so the vehicle would be 9. And that's $10,000. And equipment installation and labor would be 10 at 25, okay? And then,
Well, the site improvement, instead of getting rid of it totally, why don't we
100
do 100?
is 11, so we're still doing something if we can.
Let's circle back to.
Can I just add on to that site? So just keep in mind, that's all your tar and anything else regarding the, so it's not just the track.
But we bumped that number up to address the track. We're shooting for 500 in school building capital reserve also.
I didn't have a target with that.
We're at 401 right now.
I didn't have a target written
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Those are directly from Josh, usually.
What would you like to see? Yeah,
For which one?
the school building capital reserve.
So that's the one that's at 155?
Yeah,
That's-
401 in.
I think he's asking
Oh,
what
so
to
what
see
the
as a
target
target
number is?
balance of the fund.
So lots of discussion on that.
Not say $1 million.
So lots of discussion on that balance fund, and if you can remember, I sat here last year and could get way over millions with HVAC that we need, not to include all the roofs we need, not to include everything else we need. So that number is well north of $1 million, but we need to chip away at that throughout time, and this is gonna allow us to start doing it.
So so right now, roughly, there's like 400K sitting in that fund.
That might get us one HVAC unit. Here at Pembroke Academy alone, take the academic wing, and again, I don't have my paper in front of me, but we have 3 huge units on that academic wing here at Pembroke Academy that are 1999. The office unit's 1999. Everything here is 1999. And that's before we move over to Three Rivers, which is a little bit newer or older at that point in time. But everything is getting to that point here.
My house is built in 99 too. Just replaced the roof, replaced the leach field, replaced the boiler, so right there with you. So I mean, currently what we're looking at, if I'm understanding this correctly, there's 400 in there, we're gonna spend 40 and ask to put 155 back in, so we're hitting it at about $500,000.
Yeah, so where do we hit? Yeah, I was to suggest moving that 155 down to 100. Yeah.
And this is not, this is not our final answer. We can always look at this and tweak too, so. Okay. Are we okay with this as far as tonight goes anyway? I think I just read them all.
Do you have any direction for us on the budget? Was there anything you thought about over the past week that you wanted to direct us towards? Do you want the positions left in for now?
I mean, I guess if you, and jump in, anybody, but I guess if you can bring us, you said you guys, you sat with administration, if you can kind of bring us the results of that next time around so that we can look at positions in, positions out, what else is in there.
What we did was take things out and designate them to ESSER, which is no longer a possibility. So do you want to see what we were planning
Yeah.
before that we okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Is that, everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Not to drag it out, but.
Well, and I think also some of those questions that you asked for information from Amber, those splits that we're looking for would be helpful too, to just kind of.
It's not super helpful, but it's next step.
I just want to make sure we have what you want.
Yeah, I feel like we've been able to move a little bit faster in prior years, but facing what we're facing, I think we sort of need to tread lightly.
And let's say that extra meeting, we may need that.
Well, so I was gonna bring that
after
up.
Christmas.
I was gonna bring that up too, and I think that we should all look at our calendars, so the next time we meet, we can, because we should have a Tuesday picked out for an extra meeting in January, because MBC usually asks us, when it gets to crunch time, they're like, hey, you guys need to take some action, so. Last year we didn't use it, the year before we did, but I think we should, I mean, I guess if everybody's got digital calendars, I don't, right now, see what's.
I would love nothing more.
I'm free.
So do you want us to hold like the 9th and the 23rd? Do you want to hold the Tuesdays in January until you know what's happening?
No.
Or do you want to pick which one you want?
What, yeah.
I don't have the budget calendar.
If it's Tuesday, I'm totally fine. Oh, okay. As long as it's a Tuesday.
That's every Thursday.
No, I know, but I just.
Right now, your meetings are on the 2nd and the 16th.
So if we're going on there. So we're gonna be,
So the last meeting's probably the 25th.
we're gonna be the 21st now. So I think first week back, probably, yeah. Because they're gonna have, it'll be the 21st. Right?
I mean, you wouldn't have a budget ready for them for next week anyway.
Well, yeah, no, yeah.
Right, no, I was talking.
Even
I'm
if we
sorry, I
could,
was talking
even if we
January.
could make it, well, I was thinking about the NBC, even if we could have the binders ready, you don't have a budget for them.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
so 28th,
So I mean, if the public hearing is the 1st of February, then the last meeting before that of the NBC possibly could be the 25th. In past years, they did not have one right the week before because they were wrapped up.
yeah,
So then that would mean that if that were the case, the 18th would be the last meeting. We have a meeting on the 16th already, so I feel like the 9th is probably the most prudent to set aside. The 23rd is pretty late.
yeah.
He's still finalizing things. Is everybody available on the 9th?
Yes.
Yes.
You want us to put it on the calendar?
I
And then
think,
we can cancel it if we
yeah, I
need
think
it?
so. So which do I need to do it?
I'll have her do it tomorrow, no problem.
On the family calendar, that means the 3 of us. Okay. Anything else on budgets or buildings or warrants or anything before we?
Yes.
When you get this reworked along with the budget.
Yeah.
Material, you can send that to.
I won't be sending them anything other than the Excel version though, right? Because we didn't.
Yeah,
change
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Because I did send it to them last time, you probably saw that. All right,
Yeah.
so.
I saw that.
This is the whole packet.
Yeah, that's right, okay, all right, sorry.
Try to do that whenever we have a meeting.
Right, yeah.
So are you guys okay with me sending that to the NBC when I get the draft warrant done?
Warrant, yeah.
That we just talked about? Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, there's some pretty good expertise on the warrant stuff.
Yep.
On that side of the house, and then as soon as they can get eyes on it, I think
Yeah.
that's good for
Okay,
everybody.
too. Okay.
Okay, we got another opportunity for public comment. Looks like we can move past that unless Josh wants to say anything. Okay. You said you had 3 informational items.
I do. There's a document in your drive. Amy had a special request to have subtotals added to the tech handout, so they did that for you, so that's in there. Dan already referenced the email about graduation. Why did I say I had 3? Is there something else labeled number 10 in there?
Enrollment tracker.
Yeah, that's it, thank you. Yes. Amber put the enrollment tracking update for you. So that's in there too. That's it. I relabeled it this afternoon. I try to put things under the right numbers, so when you're looking in the drive, you can see it as it relates to the agenda.
I was looking on my phone and it literally in the middle, you must have been doing it.
I was working on it, yeah.
Yeah, because things moved around and I was like, where the heck did that go?
Yeah, once you put a number in front of it, it moves around, sorry.
Yeah, and I like to call this out once in a while because this is this is something that we asked Amber, a change from back when, there was estimates that didn't come true and that caused budget problems, and we asked her to keep track of this. And it's amazing how close she gets sometimes. So we're a third of the way through the year right now. We're 3 students to the good. as far as money is concerned. So that's good. We were -6 as of a month or so ago. So it's shifted a little bit in a positive direction. So it's good. Oh, is that just?
Yeah.
We're just looking at.
Yeah, we're 12.
Either way, it's good.
Which is good, but last year at this time, we were further ahead, so I mean, and I think we're up.
Really true.
We were last time around. Thought we were not, yeah, we were 9 last time around. I believe. We're up to 12, so somebody came back or the student showed up.
I can't tell you how much movement there was with students in and out. It's amazing.
Okay, so then the board has need to go into non-public session in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 91-8:3, small letters A and C, which are the dismissal, promotion, compensation, or disciplining of an employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her, and matters which are discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of other than a member of the board. A roll call vote to enter non-public at 8:05. Carrie?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Millie?
Yes.
Gene? Yes. And I'm a yes. So we'll take a minute, kick people out, close doors, turn off videos.
I'm gonna just ask Dr. Morse to stay